RC, do you?
I do, man.
That's what I always call those. It's like,
dude, we're doing the show in style.
Exactly.
It's a full show, man. Come on.
Yeah. You know, we've gone off on this thing, and like, I know, I get your point, because you're the, you know.
Are we recording?
We just started.
Okay.
No, I get
Cheers.
Yeah, here, Phil has no drink.
Come on, Phil.
Well, it is morning for him. You know,
oh, damn.
It's like it's the middle of the night for us. We can cut loose. It's like, poor Phil. It's morning. He's gonna have to go to work in a little bit. It's like
mix some of that Jack Daniels in the coffee, man.
It's like, do they call it an Irish coffee over there?
I don't think so. No, not from what I remember.
No, and I get why you're on the side you are, because like you say, you make software, and so that's why you're on the side of, you know, open.
Why is there a side? See, it's like you're on the side. That's why I want, like, let's transition into the other side of this. It's like we've obviously gone over what the real problem is. It's like you know, and we both agree, regardless of whether you want to call it sides or just a debate or whatever, that obviously DRM is not a viable solution. Because all right, now, the DRM in terms of what is property is a very different thing. And for example, while it may be laws of DRM, and they did change because now iTunes is DRM free, so it obviously does change.
But not all content.
Not all content.
Largely, yeah. Content. But they have DRM free stuff now, which is a good thing.
Right, but all I do, or I burn music to CD. And once you burn it to CD, it becomes something completely different. At least in the old iTunes, I don't have to do that anymore because it's all the music is DRM free. But I never owned an MP3 player for the longest time, and the best way to listen to music, in my opinion, was in my vehicle. I love to listen to music in the car. I'm not a person that carries a Walkman or listens to music, I guess, walking around. I will at the gym, but when I go go out and work out, but I never, for the longest time, had an MP3, so I didn't just have any music to bring with me in most places. So everything was geared to be listened to in my car. And obviously, I love the prices on iTunes and Amazon for a few other songs. And I'd go and burn them to CD so I could listen to my vehicle. But when I came to put them, if I were buying a new Mac or something like that, I'd put them in that new Mac. They were read quite differently, and it was treated differently. It didn't matter which machines I put them on. And I was like, this is interesting. So this whole DRM thing and them trying to say,
well, no, and like what you're talking about
in terms of
that was the loophole to get around the iTunes DRM. You burned a CD, and then you ripped the CD, and then you had something you could put everywhere.
I didn't realize that my preference was to really the only time I could listen to music was in my car, and I didn't have everything. Now I have a Zoom, so everything is different today. But back in the day, I mean, everything was always being burnt to CDs. I mean, I had tons of CDs.
Well, no, and like, I don't know if you've ever like sat and read like the copyright or listened to a book on tape or any of this stuff. But if you ever notice, everything has these magical little words. Blah blah is a registered trademark and or copyrighted by blah blah. All rights reserved. And all rights reserved is the key thing there. And with with physical media, CDs and tapes, all rights reserved was the same. Which basically was, you own this copy, but we still own the material. You know, we didn't sell you the material, we sold you a copy.
Which means you don't have ownership to distribute it.
Exactly, which is one of the things that changed when we went to digital media is technically your content, your videos and your music became just like software. You didn't actually buy it, you've licensed it. And the DRM is the enforcement of the license. In other words, you bought a license for your 3 devices. It's like, so if you're trying to use it on more than your 3, and the way they came up with 3 was back to like what I was telling you about the CD before. You know, your copy and the 2 copies to share. That was how they came up with the 3. But it doesn't quite work the same because, I mean, obviously we have more than one device. You know, I have a desktop, a laptop, and a media player. Well, that's 3 right there. You know, then I haven't got any friends. You know.
Well, let me tell you about the craziness that I got into. I at one time had 8 Macintosh in my house. And
fanatic.
Yeah, I don't care. I've been an Apple guy for a long time. But anyway,
I'm making fun of you. How many computers are here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, never mind.
No, but I have a lot of PCs as well. But I was limited to this 5 machine thing, and I had to find a way to get the same music before they had. Before I came up with a network drive, that was even hard because it kept saying, you know, this music is on this machine and so on and so forth. So how did I get that music on a machine? So I started making, you know, double accounts and this and that, and double authorization for songs that would specifically cross over. It became such a pain in the ass, and I wish that Apple would get better at interconnectivity, of understanding centralized network sharing within the home and also in the cloud. And I've heard bloggers and articles talking about how iLife, like take iPhoto for example, it sucks in shipping photos unless you want to go to the expense of making a shared drive on your network, so on and so forth, and being able to have access to all these photos rather than account here, account there, and all this other stuff. It becomes extremely cumbersome, and I really wish that Apple would understand that
and that just goes back to I'm with you on that. It's honestly one of the real missing pieces of the Apple ecosystem. That this is one of those little tiny things that Apple just doesn't seem to get their head around, the idea of this full interlinking like that. I put it back. I put it back to
multiple users can't even really share that efficiently over one Mac. But my wife's iMac over there, if people didn't have the knowledge to know how to network share, it'd be a pain in the ass to get the photos over there. Because she wants to see and have the photos of our kids on just as much as on her machine as they are on mine.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry if I keep looking to the right. But Windows is running the webcam over here, and I get distracted because I'm making it on camera. So I just right because my reflection is from the camera is up here on this machine, and my Mac's in front of me. So.
Nice. No, it's okay. It's one of those missing pieces in the whole interconnectivity and thing. It's like, and honestly, you know, this comes down to the legal concerns, the license concerns, and like you say, the just not getting it. You know, going back to, you know, the digital stuff, and you know, I'm not sure there really is a good solution to the digital stuff, because at the end of the day.
There's definitely one way to not necessarily solve the whole thing, but bring it down somewhat, and that is that wherever a movie is released with whichever country, if it's planned to be released throughout the rest of the world, do it all.
Wait a minute, Phil, you just wrote something. Yeah, you just reminded. Why do we have DVD regions?
Because they have this insane idea that they're going to like roll something out in the States and then 6 months later roll it out in China or vice versa. And
oh my God.
You know, that was the idea. Because this is the way Hollywood used to roll out movies. They would roll out.
Wait, but we interrupted Phil. I interrupted Phil. We need to let Phil
No, go ahead, go Phil.
Because Phil brought that point up, and I was like, why do we have DVD regions? But So go ahead, because we did interrupt you.
I mean, there's this one. I mean, the thing that made me think of it. I mean, this has been going on obviously for a long time, but the thing that brought it home more recently for me was that they were talking on a thing that I watched on the internet from the States about Saw, and I went and looked to see when it was coming out over here, thinking it was coming out. It must have been at the same time, I thought, and then I looked and this was January, and it said not until March, and I'm like, what's the point in doing that? 2 months of waiting down the line. When it's already out, I mean, what are they doing that for? It's pointless.
Well, no, and they used to do that to us here for Doctor Who. Like, it'd come out for y'all, and then it'd come out 6 months behind here. So we're watching the Christmas episode in the middle of the summer. It's like...
Take it from me, I've heard stories about what the PBC's like, so I know, as far as I'm concerned, it goes down for every single company, you know what I mean? It should just be, if you're going to go to any other country, it should be all of them at the same time, not at least, one in one country and one in the next month, you know what I mean?
The only exception I would give to that rule would be if there's a language issue. So, like, it should come out in the States, Canada, the UK, parts of Europe, Australia, parts of Africa, and parts of South America all at the same time. If it has to be translated to German or Spanish or whatever, that's the only justifiable reason for a delay. Dubbing. Because dubbing does take time.
Yeah.
But
I can agree with that, sure. Absolutely.
Anything other than that, no.
But that doesn't explain why we have to have regions.
No, but see, that was the reason for regions, too. See, this was the way Hollywood movies used to come out, and any movie, BBC saw anything. They would make it, and then they would release it in its target area, and they'd maximize the revenue there. And then when that tailored off, 2 weeks later to 3 months later, they would then release it again somewhere else, and then maximize its revenue. And no, but see...
All it means is that your distribution reach is equaling this many areas.
No, but
and if somebody from another country wants to buy it, why do you want to stop that sale? Regardless.
No. It's not that you want to stop that sale. It's that you don't want to. In some cases, the full rollout of a movie through various regions like this, when they're doing these delays, like Phil was saying, 2 months later, a DVD can come out as early as 6 months to a year after the release in the theaters. And here's where the region thing started. It can take upwards of 2 years of theater releases to finish as they roll around the globe. So they broke the country into regions based on how they usually rolled out movies, because the situation you would wind up in is something could have come out in the States, already be on DVD, and it's on DVD here, but it's just now being released in the movie theaters over there, and they don't want the DVD sales interfering with the movie theater tickets.
That's how they got the region locking, because so there was that much time difference between a movie coming into our theaters, leaving, getting on a DVD, and then actually starting in a theater in a different location in the world.
Yes.
Interesting.
And it was to protect...
Sounds like they have a distribution problem.
No, yeah.
That would be the thing to fix first.
That's the thing. I'm like, how about you fix your frickin' distribution problem? And that's something the BBC has actually started to do. And I named Doctor Who and Top Gear as the primary examples. Doctor Who, starting this year, will be releasing on the same date in the
What about Benny Hill? I used to watch Benny Hill religiously.
Benny Hill's not on anymore, but I'm sure if it was still as popular, I'm sure. But literally, Doctor Who will be released on it's releasing this April, and it's releasing this April. It's the 23rd over there, right, Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's releasing on the same day in the UK and the US, which, aside from the time change difference, there is no delay in release, and that has to do with when's the proper time to show it on TV. That's not about delaying it more. It's just, it makes sense to show it at Saturday night, because that's the right time to air a show like that. What caused that is initially there was a 6-month delay, and then when they stopped showing it on Sci-Fi and started showing it on BBC, there was a 2-week delay. But the internet pirates were like, I'm not waiting 2 weeks. If there's a 2-parter, I'm going to go get part 2 now, so I don't have to wait. It's like, and it was the same thing with Top Gear. They've started showing Top Gear in the States unedited, because one of the things they were doing to Top Gear was cutting like 20 to 30 minutes out of it to make room for all the commercials you have to run in America. And of course people are like, I want to see all these segments they're cutting out. You know, I want to see Jeremy Clarkson messing with Richard Hammond and insulting Hamster and excuse me, James May. Richard Hammond is Hamster. But they want to see that. And the BBC has realized they don't have control, because if they don't give it, people will come take it. They realize if they want to protect that system and make that money and so on, they can't be playing this. Maximize it in the UK, then release it to America, then release it to Canada. They've realized, nope, simul-release. We've got to fix the distribution problem if we want them coming to us for it. And I honestly, ultimately, I think that is where that will go, because they'll all realize if we don't do that, we're losing so much revenue, because when it's out anywhere, it's out everywhere.
Well, you know what? Okay. All right. I'll take back some of my comments, because, you know, after listening to you and thinking about it, certainly it is probably very difficult. They finish the film, they release it here, it's in English, obviously the actors speak English, comes out here, but say they got to release it in Japan, they got to do audio dubbing over it unless it's going to be released in English in the theaters. So that audio dubbing requires hiring voice actors and voiceover. So I can see how there's the time disparity between releases. But I guarantee you now, with digital film and how like the Red One cameras and all the other stuff if we can, that audio now in the language, and if we can get voice, I guess as voice recognition gets better for subtitles and things like that, then it'll make it easier for us to get a large portion of the translation completed digitally. However, I think what does remain is hiring voice actors to dub over. Oh, yes. I mean, is that physically what does happen when say a movie that is created and you know we listen to it in English here in the United States, that when it is released in Japan, it is actually in Japanese, or are they listening to it in English?
Well, it depends. It depends on the film. Sometimes they just put subtitles in. Which is something a computer can do. But others,
I can imagine that would piss.
Oh no, yeah.
I mean.
Well, no, but you
bitches about subtitles. I can imagine that the people are just like, Christ, when is our own country going to make movies that we can enjoy to watch versus this American stuff?
But think about the pirated versions, like you were talking about. Occasionally, you get that pirated version where they're speaking English, but you're seeing this foreign country subtitles.
That's true.
It happens more than you think. When they actually bother to dub it, though, it's one of two things, and it honestly just depends on the project and the coachability of the actor. They do one of two things. Either they get the actor to learn English, like if it's coming from Japan to here or from here to Japan or whatever, they get the actor that actually did it to learn the lines in the other language, and they have them say them. So it's the same voice. They have no idea what they're saying, and they're trusting that they're being told the right words.
It's like Kung Fu Theater.
Yeah, but it is their voice speaking the other language, dubbing over. Or they'll hire a voice dubber to, go dub over. And it honestly just depends on the project. And there are some times where it just doesn't work. More often than not, where this works best is animated things, because it says moving mouths. It's not really actual people speaking, and they can do some doctoring of the animation and other things.
Would they actually go to the expense of really editing things like that to try to make the audio seem more in sync with the video?
Sometimes they'll go as far as refilming key scenes where they're speaking different languages.
No shit. shit.
Depending on the film and how much revenue they think there is in it. There are some movies where they've literally done that. They've like shot a scene 5 different times for 5 different languages. And it's like, okay, now you're going to speak this line in this language.
Very interesting. I just recently watched on Netflix streaming this movie called Code 46. It was, and they were speaking. It was funny. It took place a lot in China, and they're speaking Spanish, Chinese, and French. It was. I found it very intriguing. This movie. I guess it's very international. I mean, even as it introduced the credits would go in Spanish, English, Chinese, and also Arabic. You know, it was very interesting. It may not be a movie for everybody. I usually tend to like movies that get very low star ratings.
You want to know why? Well, you want to know what everybody else is missing, right?
Like, and I will say it. I like Skyline. Everybody freaking hates that shit. But
I've never seen it.
I don't know why they hate it. I found it more creative than Battlefield Los Angeles. But if you haven't seen it, I won't go into it. Let's save it for another show after you do watch it, and you can watch Battlefield. I enjoyed both movies, but I just found it was more. Skyline was much more creative.
Why am I getting the feeling we need to start doing like a movie review show or something?
I'm telling you, we got to do 2 things for Apple since we're still in iWorld. Okay, I looked up some news, and they're two cool things we can say.
Okay.
And I'll like it's a big developer. We'll go back to WWDC. WWDC sold out in 8 hours, I believe, 8 or 10 hours.
I'm not surprised the Apple Coldix went there.
No, and not until 2000. I want to say somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that 2009, maybe 2000. That, and just say 3 years back, you could walk up the day of WWDC and buy a ticket.
Well, here's the thing. I would say until very recently, and recently I would say like 2 to 3 years ago, the primary focus, even though Apple wasn't there, was more on Macworld than WWDC. But the focus has started to shift in the Mac fandom.
That just made me think, God, that's so true. Back then, that's what, dude, I think you solved it. I think you solved it. I was listening to John Gruber talking about how it sold out. That's just it. You just nailed it. Apple used to have many more events that people could flock to. Mm-hmm. And purchase tickets, whether it was WWDC or Macworld. And there used to be several Macworlds. There were used to, and now there's just the WWDC. And if you're lucky, you get into the spring, the April little private, which hardly holds any anyway.
Oh yeah.
I think you did. That's true. I never thought that. That's right. Damn it, I usually catch stuff like that. But that's right, yeah, the Macworld is absent in terms of a true keynote that Apple will deliver. Macworld continues,
I mean, the Mac fans will always go to Macworld because the fans will keep
Boston, where there's a whole Microsoft thing, and Apple or something like that. But that doesn't exist today anymore. Mm-mm. So now we truly have, if you really want to go for a keynote, and I don't know if somebody's going to pay $1,500 to actually just go there to be in it. I believe they would.
No,
I think John Gruber said that he doesn't believe people would, but hello.
In the cult of Apple,
there's a lot of things Apple that people would pay for, and it's not the amount of dollars, it's the amount of margin of insanity, if you want to say. Well, and that goes with any product. It's not just to Apple, but it's amount of how much somebody wants something that they're willing to pay for it. And I think that they would absolutely, if Jobs is there, or the potential of being there, and they're there for a live keynote, even if they're in the back, the $1,500 ticket would be worth it for them. Absolutely.
Now,
absolutely.
Whether or not that will continue after Steve Jobs leaves Apple is a different matter altogether. But
geez, I've been with Apple for so long, with Steve Jobs, without Steve Jobs. I mean, I really would hate to think, you know, if and I will say, God forbid that, I hope Steve Jobs has many more years ahead of him in involvement in Apple, that I'm now locked back into Windows and then a rising Linux. Now, I'm going to stop, but it's Linux. It makes progress, but God, the highway is so long yet. You know, and that's not knocking it. God, I can personally vouch that I have 3 programs running on old school Linux from Red Hat 6 point something.
Oh man, masochist.
Dude, I have applications that, and they're unchanged, unfreaking changed. They still have those clients. Running Red Hat 6 point, what is it, 6.5? I have it right here. No, 6.0, and then here, check this out. Because I have to own it. You see that?
Yep.
I have three programs running it. They're all related to accounting. But good Lord, you know, I'm not here to bash Linux. It's not there for the masses yet, and it is quite frustrating sometimes.
I would argue, end user wise, it's largely gotten there over the last 3 years. I don't know how much you've played with it lately.
I haven't had the time.
Yeah, it's literally over from like 07 to now.
Okay, so you're saying that now I don't have to go and start I don't have to start using make files to adjust drivers and all that other stuff. Largely it's there.
Largely most of the modern chipsets and everything, it's become very much stick the disk in, it finds it figures out what it is, and there's GUI configs, and largely it's there.
Okay. And now we'll finish a little bit on Linux before I go back to Apple, because I know we're digressing again. All right. Well, I have like my computer back there, which is running my old school Linux operating systems. I guess the lack is of applications. Then at this point,
it's more lack of the same application. I would argue for 90% of what the average end user wants to do: video editing, word processing, email, so on and so forth. And actually, with Firefox and Thunderbird becoming real predominant, it's the same program. But it's more a completely uninitiated person needs to know, I should probably go get wine. Or or they need to know, well, a good video editor might be Caden Live, or there's some disagreement on that. Some people prefer other ones. It's more the primary stumbling block right now is a lack of the vocab, in that you're not if you have to know what you're looking for in some cases.
Yeah, because see, I'm used to the server side of things, and that's cool. But all the command line and shell stuff is fine. I mean, I expect that on servers, and Linux is a hoss at servers. But all right, so let me ask you, what Linux distro do you prefer?
As of late, and I get a number of people who give me nothing but flack for this. I actually like PC Linux OS because of but there's nothing wrong with Mint or Ubuntu either. I'm not personally a fan of Ubuntu because of some of the things its default configs. Yeah. But
I have a friend that showed me Mint the other day, and I was a bit impressed with Mint.
It's like I would argue my top 2 list would be Mint and PC Linux OS. I prefer PC Linux OS But I know a lot of people of the two would prefer Mint because Mint gets a lot of the kickoffs from Ubuntu development and so forth, even though it's moving to a Debian based.
All right. Now let's move back to the Apple world. Amazon is releasing a cloud-based music and music player. How do you think that's going to affect iTunes?
Well, I think Apple's going to continue to sue them. But
Amazon has the infrastructure.
No. Amazon has the infrastructure. What it's going to come down to is there are some things right now that are iTunes exclusives. It's going to come down to people's music taste, and if Amazon can lock down, I would say
it's like mimicking the console wars of exclusivity.
Yeah, no, that is literally what this is becoming, and it's the same thing in the iBooks versus the Kindle and everything else. Content is becoming king. Who did you get to sign the dotted line to be in your thing? And if it ain't there, I'm going with the other guy that has them. It is literally the thing. It's going to come down to Amazon has been well integrated into Android. Microsoft has not followed that approach. I don't actually know on WebOS. Is there like an Amazon app for WebOS?
Yeah.
So it's like they did well with those, both WebOS and Android.
WebOS is I'm going to say it right now, WebOS is the best mobile operating system, but it has almost no apps. I would say that it doesn't have enough apps to even do some basic stuff, currently.
Well, maybe HP will add Darwin to it, so it will get access to all.
But to me, it is the king of mobile OSs. It does everything as a standalone OS would do. I think the best. And all the mobile operating systems.
I said Darwin. I meant Alien Dalvik. Different things.
You know what? We've excluded Phil. Hey, Phil, did you want to talk about any of it? Because I want to go in one cool thing about Amazon and Kindle and Android before leaving and not getting Phil. Phil, did you want to comment anything on Linux, or if you have a favorite Linux distro, or?
Well, just what you were saying about Amazon, from my point of view, I think that really Apple, I think this isn't, well, from the way I see it, is that when it comes to now this summer, from where I stand, I'm pretty much sitting on the fence, and the way I've seen it is that from my point of view, it's Apple's game to lose as far as from my end, because if they don't bring out something that's good within the next 8 months or so before Christmas time, then come that time when my contract comes up, then I'm probably going to more than likely be going elsewhere if they don't make massive improvements.
Well, I can guarantee you the iPhone 5 will be released before Christmas. And in the UK, I don't know, because I'm buying the September/October, and if it's September/October here, that means in like Canada and the UK, it will be there by December. So they'll have it in time for Christmas. It'll just be like just before Christmas, but they'll have it in time for Christmas if those dates are right. So Phil, do you currently own an iPhone?
Yeah, the fourth one at the moment.
Yeah, actually, we haven't covered that for a while.
Phil, which one do you own?
iPhone 4, 64 gig.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Do you also have 2-year contracts in the UK, or does it work differently?
It's 2 years to 18 months. I went for an 18-month one, so it was a year and a half. Or a year and a half. Yeah.
All right, let me ask you a question. You said 2 years to 18 months. Is there a price? Is there a price difference between the two plans if you do 2 years or 18 months?
Yeah, the 18-month one I think was over a period of time. I think it was slightly more expensive. I think, but as has happened, I went for that because I wanted to, have the option to get out early if things, changed, and I felt that, I wanted to go elsewhere.
Okay. All right, now, do you have anything on Linux at all? Or?
To be honest, honest, I've messed about with it briefly, but I haven't really done that much with it. I mean, to be honest, I think it's just good that there is a third option out there, and everything as far as operating systems is concerned is not only commercial options, I think.
Okay. Alright, now, here's the thing I want to get into.
Okay.
I am going to buy a Kindle. Okay, now that's not going to be my tablet or whatever, pad, whatever.
It's going to be your book.
It's going to be my book, that's right. I do read. Look, I mean, I could probably show you how many freaking books I have.
Well, no, and that's one
I mean, all those are books everywhere.
Well, no,
I'm a big reader, right?
I
will tell you, I'm a grandpa.
Well, no, and honestly,
it took me forever to get a DVD player. It'll take me forever to get a Blu-ray or high definition thing. It'll take me forever to get, X, Y, Z. It does like that. But I held a Kindle. The e-ink is awesome.
Hmm?
Awesome. That is the first, and that's why I will buy a Kindle. Monitors drive me crazy. Looking at like the iPad and tablets, LCD screens, drive me crazy. I cannot sit there and read it. I love to hold paper versus looking at these things constantly like that. Drives my brain crazy. I held a Kindle, sat there in the store. Wow. I'm impressed.
No, it has that factor to it.
So, I want to know, because I don't know much about e-ink at all. I have very little knowledge about e-ink. Will Amazon make an Android tablet, or I hate using the word tablet because they're not...
Use the word slate.
Slate. Sorry for cussing. A slate, and will it be e-ink? Can we... I went on the e-ink site the other day, and they do have a color e-ink advertised on that website. What is the reality of an Amazon Android slate using e-ink? Because that, to me, for like reading, is king. Ultimately,
your guess is as good as mine, and the reason is because the color version of that technology is entirely different than the black and white version. The black and white version is physical ball bearings, white and black. The color version, what it is you have basically a screen, and what it does is it flashes, just like any monitor, red, green, blue. It flashes which is active. Each pixel has a red, green, blue dot, and it flashes which one to turn on, and then it's fixed that way until it flashes it again. So they're entirely different technology. It's just like pixels, but they're not lights. They're physical on-off switches per pixel. So it's slightly different technology, and
I can't tell you how nice it is, though.
Well, and honestly, what that's going to come down to is, does Amazon realize, if they're really making an Android device, does they realize that that is the key to the Kindle? That stuff.
You went out on me.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. What it's going to come down to is, does Amazon really realize that that's the primary selling point of the Kindle? Not the inventory, not the stuff that's on Amazon, not the stuff that physical, just wow factor. Personally, I hope they do it. But at this point, it's 50-50 whether or not they're even going to make an Android Kindle. And if they do, partly because of cost and partly because of, do they really get that that's necessary? 50-50 whether or not they're going to do that. I personally would love to see a color Kindle, because there's a lot of the books that are in the Kindle that are in color. They're not on color on a Kindle, but they're in color in the Kindle app, and I'd love to see them be in color. That would be incredibly useful in programming books if, like, all the syntax was color-coded like it would be on... or in some variation thereof, so you could actually follow stuff easier. I'd love to see that.
All right, well, let me ask you a question. Is this e-ink technology much more expensive than an LCD?
The black and white, not so much. The color one, yes.
Okay.
So that's the thing. Cost-wise, it depends when they'd be looking to make it and what they're going to charge for. I mean, the original Kindle was not cheap. It's only recently gotten cheap.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I see. I haven't followed this at all. I'm a complete noob to this kind of thing. So.
No. The Kindle's gotten ridiculously cheap. At one point, the Kindle cost almost as much as the iPad does.
What?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was not a cheap device. It was a ridiculously expensive device. Now, one of the real advantages, though, a Kindle device has for it, and this might or might not be enough to offset the cost of going for that color e-ink screen. And that would be, its job is it's basically like a game console. Its job is to sell Kindle books, not necessarily to pay for the device. Its job is to sell Kindle books.
But let me tell you something. Yeah, see, and you hit it. I'm not going to buy a device to play games. I'm sorry. A lot of other consumers will. My device is really... The priority was to extend the functionality of my phone on a larger screen. And the functionality that I'm extending is editing documents, mostly dealing with text, PDFs, code, emails, you name it. Okay? And I feel that e-ink could handle that brilliantly. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not going to play games. I'm not here to play all these little foo-foo things. And I hate to be insulting to people that take gaming seriously, but to me, I used to be I still have some PC games. I haven't had the time. I'm a first-person shooter if I have the time to play a game. I mean, I have a freaking liquid-cooled, personally built machine to play games on, with ATI cards and Crossfire and all that good shit. But I don't have the time anymore to play games. And I'm not a console person. My wife doesn't. Like you had asked me about the other day, would I buy a mobile console that is more expensive than a main console? And I know that Leo had said, well, I didn't answer the question. The reason why I felt like I answered the question is because the context of the question is based on value. If my kids find more value in the mobile device versus an Xbox, then yes, because if it's a gift for my kids, then I want to get them something that they find more value in. Regardless if the Xbox can do more, if the product is for them, it's what they see value in and not what I see value in. That's why I answered the question in the way I did. But we don't have consoles here, and I don't think we really will for the foreseeable future. But, I have PCs, and my son uses his Mac to play some games. They're not like first-person shooter quality or all this other stuff, but he does play on his Mac that he has in his room. They're more educational things of that level, and he has some fun things, I guess, that he does on there. But for me, this device is really a business device. Because I can't justify, quite frankly, paying $600 for a slate that plays games. Why would I do it? My brain just goes, hello, why would I want to do that?
I can think of a reason you could do that, and that would be you're killing two birds with one stone. In that, I'm using it for work, but when I'm in the car, I give it to the kids in the back seat to shut them up.
Oh, hell no. See, I don't give my business, no way. Because you get onto my kids and it's broken. Trust me, there's something that's going to go wrong with the device. No. There's none of this taking a product that I use professionally.
Well, you're talking to somebody who was around expensive computers since they were 3, so I didn't grow up in the you break the computers. I grew up in the if you're too rough with the computers, you better be looking for a new home. It's like...
I guess some kids would have respect for it, but I don't know. I mean, I would not risk giving my professional device to my kids for entertainment. And quite honestly, we go on road trips. I am a parent that does not, I repeat, does not have the DVD screens from the ceiling to the back of my... I do it what my parents did with me. We'll have interactive conversation or fun songs, or playing card games like Spot Me, or like the alphabet, trying to find signs to keep them occupied. I call me old school. I just am old school in every damn thing.
There's nothing wrong with that.
It's just that's how it is with me. So when I'm thinking of something that I need that is a slate, it's like, wow. And this Kindle thing, even though it's been around for years, it takes me forever to get to these kinds of things if it's not really directly involved with the things that I do professionally. And man, I'm impressed, man. I am so overwhelmed with how nice it is to read on this thing.
Well, no,
and now I want my phone to be that nice to read on.
And I don't ever think the phones are going to use that sign. And I'm with you. I think it's really the only experience that makes sense for that stuff. But at the end of the day, because of the way that technology works, it is horrible for things like games or sign or other things. I'm not even sure it'd be a pleasant web experience, depending on the content of the page.
Depending on the content, because I browsed a couple of websites just from the brief time it wasn't that brief, but I mean it was temporary time at the store that I had it, and it seemed relatively nice.
But like I said, it's going to depend on the content of the page. Some pages would look great, and it depends on the type of user you're going for. And at the end of the day, one of the judgment calls they have to make when they make these devices, at the end of the day, that type of technology, why it's perfect for what we're talking about, it's a niche technology.
Sure.
And they're going to have to make that call.
It's so pleasant to read.
Oh, no, I know. Well, no, and that's the thing. Are they going to be making, if they make an Android-based Kindle, are they going to be making it's a Kindle that just happens to be an Android device too? Or are they going to be trying...
Are they going to limit the amount of applications on it as well? Because obviously the e-ink is not going to work that well.
Now, even if it's not Android-based, I don't think something that's beyond the realm of possibility is a next-gen Kindle in the next few years that's a color Kindle.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's beyond the realm of possibility. I mean, it doesn't have to be Android to be a color Kindle. It's a natural progression. But, again, that is something that's going to be does Amazon want to? Because the Kindle has infinite shades of gray. And while the Kindle books support color, one of the intangible qualities about that, I don't know if you've looked at the grayscale like the Kindle's using versus the different technology color equivalents of that. It's a close experience, but it's not quite identical because of the difference in the technology. Like I say, the gray one is physical balls, physical tiny little balls. So it's a much sharper image because there's, aside from the rack holding the physical ball bearings, there's no space between them. It's as if you took a bunch of little tiny colored balls together, to film the thing. The color version of that, because you have to have the three colors, there's more space between the pixels because of the nature of how the pixels have to work, which winds up being not as sharp. It's noticeable, but it's still much better. It still has that aspect, but it's not near as sharp to the eye. The eye can tell the difference.
Yeah, see, man. Okay, so the answer would be that if Android decides to enter into the slate market, that and if it's Android, that they keep the Kindle, but the Android slate is something more cloud-rooted, because I could definitely see, and Gruber was talking about this, and that he thinks that Amazon will keep the Kindle, and then it'll just be another Amazon sponsored type Android device. But I'm wondering what would make it unique. Amazon has the infrastructure to deliver services to that slate that are not going to be able to be matched by most of the vendors.
Well, no, and one of the things they could obviously bundle with it would be like access to Amazon's cloud-based thing as just part of the app, Kindle access, or even some Kindle books as part of. They could just throw that in. If you buy, it's like when you sell the phone and it comes with a movie. You know, Amazon could.
Are you telling me how the hell they made a deal with AT&T for free? This WhisperNet. I mean, I'm just learning about this, so people may be laughing. You know, because it's been around for a while. This to me is I just found out. You know, I'm just starting to get into this thing. This WhisperNet and WhisperSync that doesn't cost you any money, so you can download books within less than 60 seconds, and you don't have to have a freaking plan.
Mm-hmm.
Holy crap!
No.
To me, it's like what? Hello.
AT&T's doing a lot of weird things like that, which is part of why I'm like, and you're putting data caps in because.
Ever part of my equation now. This is going to be forever part of my equation now. That what the hell? Whose ass or reverse ass kissing is going on to achieve this kind of shit?
Well, no, and honestly, this is one of the things, like you're saying, Amazon has this hell of an infrastructure. So there's a number of people who are starting to think that how long before Amazon, Google, Apple, and Microsoft just say, screw you, we're going to go do our own thing independent of you.
Exactly, and check it out. Am I pretty soon going to be seeing, instead of AT&T Mobile, that's Amazon Mobile, that this whole I'm cutting too much, but this entire time that AT&T has actually been using so much of Amazon's cloud services to help their network get along, that we're running on Amazon.
One of the real holdups to whether or not they do that is, can they get federal approval licensing to become, to use those type of bands and things. Because if they can license it all day long to AT&T, because AT&T has government approval to be doing that, and they have to get the license to do it. So, right. but if at some point you start seeing Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Apple sending lobbyists, preaching about, it's like, this is coming. They're like, they're getting the votes to get the legal permission to cut the middleman out.
Right. Because I know most people didn't even know about that when we were talking about Mac versus PC, about EC2 and S3 and all that other stuff. I mean, I knew about that because that's part of what I do. I mean, like for instance, people don't understand, like EC2. If you have a very busy website or content that is very demanding, you can shut down a server relatively easy.
Oh, easily.
However, if you use EC2, you essentially own servers virtually in all kinds of locations. So now I can deliver content to Asia and the South Pacific, and then I can deliver content to Europe, and then deliver course content to the United States, whether on my own server or on an EC2 server. And that's the whole point of EC2. S3 is essentially, I have specific content like movies, and people are hitting my specifically for songs and movies. They're not here so much to see like my web page and some text on it. They want to download a movie or a song on my website. Now that's going to demand a tremendous amount of traffic for me. So how do I give them a pleasant experience of a rapid, server crashing?
One of the solutions I've been seeing as of late,
the content in mirrored locations.
Yeah, that's the solution I've been seeing as of late, and this actually improves your Google rank too, because it by an order of magnitude improves the response time of your site and your server, because literally the text is being loaded from your server, and then everything else, all the files, the images, everything is coming from these arrays. Which means the response time of your site is...
Exactly. Absolutely. And, I mean, Amazon's had this for quite a while, and I hate to be a noob on this, but I was like, hello, WhisperNet is free? I don't have to... And it's telling me I can go anywhere in AT&T's coverage. It's making my brain think, like, okay, there is, like, severe ass-kissing going on somewhere. Who owes who what at this point, is what I was thinking. Because, good Lord, AT&T is trying to nickel and dime everybody else on, you're using too much of our data network. oh my god, and then, but oh, here's Amazon coasting on, have a book in 60 seconds, browse, go and look on the internet from our devices, and it's free.
Well, I'm
missing something here. You know what I'm saying? What?
It also helps that books are an incredibly small amount of data, relatively speaking. I would argue some people.
Man, are you going to freaking argue with me with how many Kindle users are there? This can be. We can quantify this and how many downloads and how many books actually occur.
I know.
With the micromanagement that our cell carriers have today, bitching about little bits and bytes that we're freaking using here, and sending us damn text messages saying, "I know that you're tethering. How dare you tether?" That shit happened. I don't buy it for a second.
You're preaching to the choir here. You know, this is one of the things I can't figure out how. You know, like they'll give me more minutes, which use more bandwidth than my teeny tiny text message, but they're gonna bitch about that. And my web page, like my voice call, my talking is using more of your network's bandwidth than that. That's no, I'm with you, but
yeah, I mean, Phil, do you guys have Kindle over there? I mean, because I know Kindle, they say it works in like several hundred countries and stuff.
Well, yeah, we have got the Kindle here in the UK, yeah, so we do have it, yeah.
Is it free to use?
I think once you've purchased it, yeah, as far as I know, I don't think there's any, I think apart from paying obviously for the digital books and what have you, but I think as far as, I don't think there's any subscription or anything like that to my knowledge.
Have you been able to look at a Kindle? I mean, have you looked at the ink or have any opinion on it?
For me, when it comes to books, I actually prefer them in audio, to be honest, because I just find that a more better way of like enjoying books, to be honest.
I mean, I know I love the smell of books. Don't get me wrong; I have enough books here in my study to show that. But I will tell you that, especially for magazines, there are so many articles that I very much enjoy, and I got in the habit of like scanning them and making them PDF documents to index. That I found not only just the Kindle as a book reader, but more as a magazine reader and storing.
On that note, I think the Times is going with the wrong person for the daily. I think they should be going after Amazon and the Kindle rather than the iPad.
Yeah. And iBooks, I don't think is ever going to defeat Amazon's book market. eBooks, I guess it's called, or something.
No, yeah, I know. Well, and honestly, I'm wondering if part of the way the Whisper thing you're talking about is getting paid for is because like Phil's saying, for the majority of the books you buy on a Kindle, the majority of them are paid books. Which means there's money changing hand every time bandwidth is used. Is AT&T getting some type of kickback per download? Which means it's in their best interest to just let this WhisperNet run because they get a kick every time you download? Is that something that's going on there? I don't know.
Yeah, you could say Amazon is saying all of our downloads are a fixed amount, and therefore we'll give you X amount per download. I don't know. I'm still. I mean, this is new to me, and it's still very fresh in my head because I'm talking days old, right? That I'm starting to get into this Kindle stuff. But I'm absolutely going to buy a Kindle not to manage my books so much, but to manage magazines. I'm a big user of magazines, and I love to retain information because magazines that I feel I subscribe to have very valuable information. And quite frankly, I hate running out of room. I have stacks that my wife complains about. Like, when are we ever going to get rid of this stuff? And I keep them.
I blame hoarders. Everybody is on a quest to throw away their books since hoarders came on.
Go ahead. So who's talking? Go ahead, Phil. Or am I hearing myself talking?
Well, you're hearing me saying I blame hoarders for everybody throwing away their books. Personally, I'm with Phil. There are times I feel like just reading a physical book, but I also like to listen to them. What I would honestly like...
I don't know if I can sit there and listen to a book.
No. Here's what I would honestly like to see. I'd like to get the best of both worlds. I'd like to see somebody come up with a service that combines the Kindle and Audible, where I buy a book package and I get both the Kindle and an audio performance of the book. The good audio books, they're
the
like
Kindle already does that. The Kindle too, or the Kindle, whatever. I mean, again, I'm a noob to this, but when I went to Amazon, the Kindle, not the Kindle DX, but the Kindle. I don't know all these damn models and stuff. But the smaller one, not like this DX thing.
Right.
Will read to you.
Well, okay, but see that's the thing. There's text to speech, which is what some audiobooks are. I am Microsoft Sam. The word is Bob. Bob went to the store. Bob did things. I can't stand that. It drives me nuts. Then there's audiobooks that are they're a performance. The person reading the books is literally, they're doing different voices for different people. They're giving a performance. It's like listening to a play. And what I would love,
I've never listened to an audiobook in my life.
Well, there's good audiobooks and there's bad audiobooks. The good audiobooks, they're literally, the closest thing I can relate them to is an old-time radio play. They're done like that. And what I would love is a service where I could buy a book and I get both something like a Kindle app, but I also get an audio file, and I would love a cloud syncing where like I get in my car and I start listening to the book, and when I get to the office it knows where I left off in the tape and it just starts on that page. And I can read, I can listen, I can actually go through several books in a week. I would love that.
Okay.
But that's
all I know is I watched a few of the Kindle videos, and they were I guess it does text to speech versus and more entertaining. I don't know if I like to read because I read at different rates, and I find myself that if I find the material extremely interesting, that I'll read faster and get into it versus audio. I don't know. I think my brain handles audio quite differently than when I'm physically reading. I don't know. I can't say because these audiobooks that you're talking about, I honestly haven't heard one in my life.
Well, and it honestly just depends on my mood, what I'm in the mood for.
I just not. I haven't had an audio book experience yet. So.
Yeah. Well, no. Well, when it comes to manuals and programming things, the only thing I can stand is a physical book. I don't want somebody reading. Oh yes, and the tag opens, closes. So I'm like, no, give me the damn book. It's like but then there's stuff like Indoors Game or or Battlefield Earth or a Stephen King novel or things like that. It's like, if done right, they can be a performance. It's like, so it depends on the content, it depends on my mood, it depends.
I'm not, you mentioned Stephen King. I am not the biggest Stephen King fan, but I find that the movies that I enjoy are rooted in Stephen King's writings, but are badly butchered. One of them being The Running Man. Now, I know The Running Man was based on Stephen King, but they took it a different route. And that's one of my favorite movies. I mean, I grew up with it in the 80s. And I guess it's because a lot of things that we grow up with, for example, I'll use a John Gruber analogy that he has on a podcast where he's talking about James Bond movies. And that he loves Sean Connery, but because of his age, and he's very much the same age range as I am, that the James Bond that he grew up with was Roger Moore, and therefore you have a childhood bias that sticks with you when you're judging James Bond movies because you grew up with Roger Moore being James Bond.
I agree with that, but unfortunately with some of that stuff, if you go back and watch it, then you're like, what was I thinking? What was I smoking as a kid?
I mean, as ridiculous as Running Man is, I freaking watch it. I just love it. I don't know. I mean,
well, no. Running Man, like Total Recall, is one of those movies. There's an intangible quality
dude,
to
you
it.
brought in Total Recall. That's awesome. Yeah.
Creed, start the reactor.
I mean, I find myself appreciating more of the things I grew up with, like RoboCop. Good Lord! I was glad to see that being available for streaming and stuff like that on Netflix. The stuff that I find myself, I don't know, enjoying rewatching a lot of the content that I did as a child. I don't know.
And your kids are sitting there watching it with you and going, Daddy,
yes!
what were you smoking when you were a baby? It's like...
But, you know, I will let me say something about that, though. You can sit there with your kids and they can watch something with you. And they may enjoy it with you because they see that you're enjoying it and they want to be part of that experience. But my oldest son, for instance, got into trains and you know, the sets. I never was like that as a child, and I tried to get him into Star Wars. I freaking was the biggest Star Wars nut ever as a child. Now, actually, I could agree with you in saying when I look back at it, it's not my favorite sci-fi, like, which is Babylon 5. Like, Babylon 5 immediately took slot number 1 in my older years. But it doesn't mean I don't like... I guess I like the original Star Wars films, but I cannot get into the newer ones, like the prequels.
Well, no, see, that's the thing. I can stand the original Star Wars films as long as they're not the CG'd fixed ones. Because part of the quality of those is, like, there was this off thing to them. And when you, like, start adding all those CGs, especially some of them, they're just, no.
Yeah,
it's funny, I don't know what's up from my point of view, because I do not get what problems people have with the prequels. I just don't get that, because I quite enjoyed them, to be honest, whether I should admit that or not.
Well, it's a couple of things. It's if you saw the what was the first Star Wars you saw?
I think it was the original ones before they added the scenes in '97. So I think I did see the originals just before they added the scenes to them.
Okay, it's a combination of a lot of things. Of the originals, I can kind of half stand Phantom Menace.
Oh God!
I said half. The other half, the other half of me, the other half of me is looking at it as this is fucking Star Wars 4 retold, and that's one of the things. If the prequels, episodes 1, 2, and 3. It's like, particularly in Phantom Menace. I mean, okay, instead of blowing up a Death Star, we're blowing up a droid ship. But it's the same freaking thing, except condensed and less excited. And it's not, there's just...
I don't know, I found it so lacking.
Yeah.
You know, Phantom Menace, I went there and almost walked out. And I was so, because I was like a Star Wars nut, I sat there in line. I sat in line. I never sit in line. Not even for Apple products. You know, I don't ever sit in line. For that movie, I said, I'm going. I dragged my wife there. We didn't have kids at the time. I mean, my wife's looking like, you are such an idiot. But, you know, we sat for hours in this damn line. And I'm like, oh my God. I wanted to break down, shoot myself. I wanted to cry after the minute. I was like, what the hell just happened? I completely dismissed the movie as not even being part of Star Wars. Star Wars prequel started with 2 and 3 to me.
There were parts of it that bugged me. And then 2 just got a little worse.
Really? 2 picked up a little bit of the story.
Yeah, but there were just things in 2. At 3, on the other hand, I'm just like, well, okay.
I mean, 3 I appreciated the most because it tied into the story that I knew. I don't care about the corniness and stuff. It's just, it was material that I could relate and saying, okay, this is, because I've read all of the Star Wars novels. I mean, all of them. from the prequels to all of the Grand Admiral Thrawn, who was the author of those. Good Lord, he wrote several books on them, and I had a tremendous amount of context for what the Clone Wars were going to be and all this other stuff. And wow, so when I saw in 2 like the clones being produced, and then getting into 3. It related to much of the book material that I had already understood.
No. I got the whole Clone War things, but the part that pissed me off about 2 was that, like you're saying, the Clone Wars are such an integral part of the Star Wars universe. I got annoyed that they they literally just stopped where it began, and they never picked it up. Now, they went and did an anime series that kind of flashed through the Clone Wars.
Right.
But it was one of those. It was just like, no. You're calling the movie the Clone Wars. I want to see the Clone Wars.
It was actually a very drastic event. It dictated the setup and the atmosphere for the original Star Wars series and how and the positions that all the characters started. I mean, the Clone Wars was significant in dictating the jurisdiction in that universe. So, and you're right, they just played it down. Yeah. It was a rush. It was a rush to create Darth Vader, essentially.
Yes. Dun, dun. And we had to get James Earl Jones's voice back in Star Wars.
But I can't get in the prequels like they did the original. Absolutely. No.
I think it's one of those things like what Phil was asking. It's one of those, you either love or hate them. There is no in between on there.
Yeah. Well, how many hours have we been going?
I think we actually, between the 2 parts, have 2.5 hours, give or take. If you're still with us, write to care of Yoda's Gimmer Stick.
Oh my! You know what? If you're still recording, we're gonna do, because I know some of my subscribers watch this. That we're gonna have to do another Cracker Cast where you and I, and if Phil wants to join in, we're just going to get good and a whole bunch of rum and coke, man. And it's going to be no holds barred for content.
I think we need to figure out a way to do that and just kind of invite.
I have either live stream or Ustream, and I can have you on as a video co-host.
Yeah. Now, will that let you record all of that though too?
Mm-hmm. It will.
Okay. Yeah, it's like, because that's something we need to figure out how to do. Is just like figure out like once a week or bi-weekly or whatever, just no topic, whatever the hell, go where the conversation goes or something.
Absolutely.
It's like,
I mean, because I listen to podcasts that are supposed to be technical, and Apple people who John Gruber is, but he likes to discuss James Bond and all. You just go wherever the conversation takes you. Really.
Yeah, we can go in everything from sci-fi to quantum theory to what's my paradox. Oh no! You get a few beers in me and start talking about quantum physics, inevitably we wind up on causality paradoxes.
No. This is gonna get good. This is gonna get good. But trust me. The second I put out on Twitter that I'm gonna do a Cracker Cast, it's gonna be a big audience.
Okay. All right. Do we want to stop there then, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Happy April Fools, everybody. I feel like I need to get this out today then, damn it.
Yeah, you can.
All right. Stop it there.